In the early 1900s, many feared the disease of typhus, which is spread through contact with infected body lice. At this time, xenophobia was rampant as many viewed the people crossing the bridge from Juarez with prejudice. They were thought to be dirty, low-class foreigners, even though they walked no more than an hour to get to El Paso, who could only spread typhus. As a result of this, custom officials enforced a mandatory bath and disinfection to those crossing the bridge from Juarez to El Paso. The Bath Riots occurred on January 28, 1917, when a young girl by the name of Carmelita Torres refused to be disinfected by gasoline and convinced 30 other women to do the same. The following is from David Romo's book, Ringside Seat to Revolution. Here he recounts the historic event. The El Paso Times described the leader of the Bath Riots as an auburn-haired Amazon. She sparked an uprising against a policy that would change the course of history in El Paso and Juarez for decades. Some even consider her a Fronteriza Rosa Parks, yet her name has been mostly forgotten. The Amazon was Carmelita Torres, a 17-year-old Juarez maid who crossed the Santa Fe International Bridge into El Paso every morning to clean American homes. At 7:30 a.m. on January 28, 1917, when Carmelita was asked by customs officials at the bridge to get off the trolley, take a bath, and be disinfected with gasoline, she refused. Instead, Carmelita got off the electric streetcar and convinced 30 other female passengers to get off with her and demonstrate their opposition to this humiliating process. By 8:30, more than 200 Mexican women had joined her and blocked off all traffic into El Paso. By noon, the press estimated their number as several thousand. The demonstrators marched as a group toward the disinfection camp to call out those who were submitting themselves to the humiliation of a delousing process. When the Immigration and Public Health Service officers tried to disperse the crowd, the protesters hurled bottles, rocks, and insults at the Americans. A customs inspector was hit in the head. Fort Bliss Commander General Bell ordered his soldiers to the scene, but the women jeered at them and continued their street battle. The Amazons, newspapers reported, struck Sergeant J.M. Peck in the face with a rock and cut his cheek. The protesters laid down on the tracks in front of the trolley cars to prevent them from moving. When the streetcars were immobilized, the women wrenched the motor controls from the hands of the motormen. One of the motormen tried to run back to the American side of the bridge. 3 of 4 female rioters clung to him while he tried to escape. They pummeled him with all their might and gave him a black eye. Another motorman preferred to hide from the Mexican women by running into a Chinese restaurant. General Francisco Murguera showed up with his death troops to quell the female riot. Murguera's cavalry was rather intimidating. They wore insignia bearing a skull and crossbones and were known for taking no prisoners. General Murguera's nickname was Pancho Mecates for his habit of hanging hundreds of prisoners from mecate ropes along telephone lines leading to Juarez. The death troops brought their own military band. It was the same band that had played during a previous execution of 3 men caught selling ammunition. The cavalry drew their sabers and swords and pointed them at the crowd, but the women were not frightened. They jeered, hooted, and attacked the soldiers. The soldiers were powerless, the El Paso Herald reported. The Bath Riots were an important historical event in both El Paso and Juarez that inspired many others, especially Mexican women, to fight against prejudiced policies and people in power. In 2016, a composer by the name of Joe DiFilippio wrote a song entitled Carmelita that tells the story of the woman who refused to be deloused at the bridge.
Drank your coffee and got dressed. You did not plan to be a page in history. No, Carmelita, headed for El Paso, another house to clean. The agents, they detained you, a girl of 17. No respect did they show. You came from Mexico. Oh, Carmelita, Carmelita, you said no on the bridge that day. They tried to disinfect you, take your clothes away. Carmelita, you said no, refused to obey.